Hate crimes against Muslims are on the rise. In London alone, reported attacks nearly doubled between 2011 and 2013 to 500. Here in the northwest, Muslims make up only 5.1% of the population, yet are victims of over 40% of all religiously motivated hate crimes. Most cases go unreported, as religious hatred law does not cover hate, insult, abuse and violent and threatening words to the same degree as race hatred law. There is evidence to suggest that the media plays a large role in inciting this hatred through their terminology and misreporting. Whether or not this is intentional or from ignorance, innocent people are being demonized and in some cases being killed. I speak to some Muslims, visit a mosque, and talk to members of the media.
It is Friday afternoon, it is Crescent Community Radio, it's 97.0 FM, and as always, I will be with you live till 5. The majority of people don't really care. I think the majority of the non-Muslim community get on quite well with their Muslim neighbours and communities, but there's always a fringe element in every community, whether that be the Muslim community or the wider community. But I think there is, like I said, there is an onus on the broadcaster to be more responsible about the types of words that they use, and also they need to make sure that they understand the words that they're using as well and what they actually mean. Because, you know, if it wasn't for the media, you know, the vast majority of people wouldn't think that jihad was just holy war. As we within the Muslim community know that jihad is more than just going to war. But unfortunately, it's because of the media that the vast majority of people think that. So it's an everyday part of linguistics, but like I said, it doesn't help.
A study conducted by Lancaster University found that for every single time a Muslim is mentioned positively in the media, they are mentioned negatively 21 times, with words such as suicide bomber, terrorist, extremist and fanatic most commonly used. Manchester's Piccadilly Gardens witnessed an Islamophobic attack last December. The victim, Mariam Al-Ansari, was willing to tell me her story. This is where the attack occurred?
Yeah, literally just right here. Me and my friend came after uni, just having a coffee, and the 4 English girls, we sat on the other side. Beggar came along and asked them, you know, for money, and then she just told them, go back to your own country. If I was in your country, I would have got raped and kidnapped and all that. So I had to, when I heard that, I had to butt in, you know, tell her that wasn't a nice thing to say. And so she backlashed at me, telling me to go back to your own country. And then she saw my friend telling her, you effing packy slag. And then she said to me, you effing packy terrorist. You know, I'm going to bomb your face off and all that stuff. And I was like, you know, I don't know what you're trying to say. I mean, what do you mean terrorist? Yeah. I don't know. I just hated the word terrorist, really, how she just like paintbrushes every single Muslim with the, you know, the same brush and all that. And then like she pulled my hijab off, she kicked me, she slapped me, and she literally ran off.
How long have you been living in Manchester?
18 years.
And how many attacks have you suffered since?
Physical once, verbal, quite a handful I think.
They were the same sorts of insults?
Yeah, packy this, you know, packy that, go back to your country. I'm a British Libyan living in England, you know.
What do you think of the actual term Islamophobia? Does it make sense?
Well, there are people that are actually scared of Muslims, but it's just more hate than being afraid, really. So whatever happened to me, I think it was just, you know, out of anger and frustration, not because, you know, she's scared of me. If she was scared of me, she won't come near me.
So where do you think these girls got their terminology from?
I think social media and, you know, just media in general, really.
I think we have to be very aware that we're very influential in shaping people's views, and we shouldn't be categorising people, and we shouldn't be demonising people, and therefore we need to be very aware of how our reports are going to be perceived in Britain. And what you don't want to do is, which I think some parts of the British media have been veering into, is demonising anyone who is a Muslim. We have to, you have to be, as a journalist, really, really aware that your reports are a very broad brush view of things, and that's why each journalist has to give an extremely honest account, but also be very mindful of the impact that could have, particularly in Britain.
group of young Muslims and non-Muslims play football on a regular basis, seemingly mixing well. How do they feel about the way situations around the world are being reported?
Oh, wow, goal that is. Good answer, man.
What do I think about Muslims and non-Muslims coming together? Well, it's always good. Football brings a lot of people together, so it's all good to get them together. And it's quite good that these young guys are organising their own games.
I'm atheist myself, I don't believe in a God, so it's just the same as it's just like chilling with Christians, isn't it?
Media's major. Whatever media's going to portray, that's what the people are going to go off. So it doesn't matter us guys getting together, explaining to these guys, this is what Islam's all about. But some of them might listen to us, some of them won't. They'll go home, listen to the news and think, alright, this guy was chatting rubbish. Over the years, with all these terrorist activities, it has become harder. If I got invited out by one of my white mates, I'd think twice whether turning up or not. I'll have to think who's going to be there, whether I'm going to fit in or not. But whereas before, I don't think that was the case.
You can get a rough idea, but until you experience it yourself, you're never going to know.
For me, education. I mean, understand each other's religions, each other's beliefs, and I think that would bring peace. That's what it is, in my opinion.
Imam Irfan Chisti deals with communications for the Rochdale Council of Mosques. I asked him for his advice to people who are confusing the actions of supposedly Muslim terrorist groups with their fellow citizens.
I think our faith is being hijacked at the moment by people, individuals, groups that have their own political aims that have absolutely nothing to do with Islam. And hard as it may be, especially for our non-Muslim audience, to ignore the fact that they may be, they may look like Muslims, they dress like Muslims, they may even sound like Muslims, Allahu Akbar, shouting that when they're killing somebody. God is great, and so He's asked you to kill somebody. Doesn't really make sense to me. So just try your best to overlook those negativities and just go and find a real Muslim. There's plenty of them around, and have a conversation, share some food. And to my Muslim friends, I'd say, make those opportunities happen. Open up your homes, open up your masjids, and just share the beauty and the love of Islam.
My name is Sajid Yassin and this is Golden Mosque. So this is the main hall of the mosque. This is where we pray the 5 daily praise. We've got a man in action there. So the Imam would stand there and give his speech. That's the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, also the attributes. So for example, you've got Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, the most merciful, the most beneficial. So we can't in our mind picture what God, in a sense, Allah is, but we can get an idea by the attributes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one, obviously, who created us. So we go by His attributes. His creation should resemble that in regards to being just to the community, as such as being kind to the community as well. As you can see, we've got a library here, Islamic text, literature, where they can take time and learn about the religion, rather than just going off what they hear on the media or YouTube. They've got the Imam to speak to, they've got books here as well, so they can get more in-depth knowledge. We're in the downstairs community hall. Last Sunday we had Healthy Minds from NHS come here. They use this area here to deliver a presentation on Healthy Minds, basically dealing with depression and stress. The mosques are there to serve the community, so it's integral for them to provide services like that from this as a base, because you can reach people that probably won't attend NHS themselves, or the doctors or the nurses. Every final Thursday of the month they provide a soup kitchen, which the mosque is funding. We do that at the Magistrates Prison next to the police station. It depends on the needs of the community. If there's someone that approaches them as feeling that they need something, then we'll try best to cater for it. So this is the computer room of the mosque, the IT suite, if you want to call it. Works of art around the wall. So a few months ago, It was Rabiul Awwal, the month in where the Prophet was born. So what we did, we chose to have, we given a competition. It's to get them connected to their faith from a young age and still not feel restricted that they have to change themselves. You're allowed to be a Muslim and be an artist. So this is to affirm that, so they can be linked between the different skills they have. And then having come to the bathroom or the ablution area, if you want to call it. So just before the congregational or individual prayer, a Muslim is required to wash themselves and cleanse themselves. The whole concept of everything is to cleanse yourself. So whether you cleanse yourself physically and then you go to your prayer where you cleanse yourself spiritually, emotionally, internally as well. There's not one main purpose, there's many different purposes of the mosques. I mean, the mosques are built for the community as a whole. So if you want to go back to 1400 years when the mosques were first established, you had a court in there, for example, is a function hall for if there was gatherings. They're similar to now in that extent. The main purpose being serving the community. So whatever that entails, the mosque was providing.
The worst stories are the ones where there is no Islamic angle to begin with. But the reporter or the headline writer, who 99 times out of 100, or maybe 999 times out of 1,000, isn't Muslim themselves, and perhaps doesn't know many Muslims, introduces an Islamic angle nevertheless. For example, a High Court ruling last year approving divorce under Jewish rabbinical law was headlined on the front page of the Times as High Court opens way to Sharia divorces. Story about a Jewish couple bringing their religious ruling to a High Court became transformed into a story about those Muslims and their dastardly Sharia laws.
Being a prominent Muslim figure in the media, do you believe your faith promotes violence and terrorism?
Do I believe my faith promotes terrorism and violence? Shock, horror, surprise, surprise. No, I don't, because if it did, then I probably wouldn't be an adherent of that faith. There are lots of public policy debates which are seen through the prism of a very narrow right-wing media agenda, which gives you only one side of the argument, if that, which skews the facts and statistics, if they even bother to use facts and statistics, and therefore you have a great deal of misinformation about immigration, where people think there are twice as many immigrants in the country as there are, about welfare fraud, where people think it's on a much bigger scale, 10 times as much as it actually is, and in terms of Islam, where people are fearful of Islam and Muslims, and when you ask them, have you actually met a Muslim? No. What's their source of information about Islam? It's from the media. So you have a real problem there. How do you tackle that? How do you fight back against that? It's very difficult. I think there are lots of steps we have to take. We need to get more people from diverse backgrounds working within the media, crucially. We need to get rid of the groupthink in the mainstream media, especially in the British press. We need better regulation. We need a greater awareness, public awareness of some of the downsides and some of the misinformation that's coming out of the media. So we need more grassroots campaigns. We need better lobbying of the media. And I don't think we can just pretend to say, oh, well, nobody's reading newspapers anymore. It's great now. The internet will solve everything. A, that's not true. Newspapers still have big audiences, still have a lot of influence. And B, as I say, social media is not a silver bullet.
There's a long history of the West. You know, it's kind of Orwellian. We've always been at war with Eurasia, that sort of thing, and that we've seen that in Syria, where Assad was first enemy number one, and now his opponents are actually enemy number one as well. Obviously, the whole point with ISIS is we've got to realise they are a brutal, murderous organisation which predominantly kill Muslims, but we can't allow the rhetoric around it to be used to demonise Muslims as a whole, and there's always that danger of Islamophobia and the way Muslims are portrayed in the media. And that massive demonisation, and it has, and you know, ISIS would love nothing better than for that to carry on. So we've got to make it clear that, you know, ISIS are, yes, a complete despicable, vile group, and to make sure that that's not used to fuel, you know, in some way twisted, to make it out as though this is, you know, in any way emblematic of Muslims, who, as I say, are the main victims of ISIS.
So what is achieved with the constant vilification of Muslims and Islam? Sure, due to the number of supposed Muslim terrorist organisations, it sells papers and attracts attention. But it also gives certain self-interest groups the mindless support they need to commit their own crimes against people in the Middle East, Africa, and here in the Western world. Dehumanizing certain groups of people leads to unrest, and it's the innocent people who suffer the consequences of the propaganda. The only question remains, when are the mainstream purveyors of information going to grow up?